Do something for me. Read this in your head. Don't say it out loud. Did you hear it? That silent voice inside your head, in your own accent, that no one else can hear. You've lived with it your entire life. It narrates your day, rehearses your arguments, reads these very words to you right now. But here's the strange part. Not everyone has it. Some people just read this in total silence. And the reason why is going to change how you think about thinking itself. That voice feels like the most you thing there is. It sounds like you. It uses your words, your accent, your private opinions. It's been narrating from behind your eyes for as long as you can remember. And yet, almost nobody ever stops to ask the obvious questions. Where did it come from? Who is it talking to? And is it even really you? The answers are stranger than the voice itself. Let's start at the beginning. Because the voice wasn't always there. You were not born with an inner voice. You built one. In the 1930s, a Soviet psychologist named Lev Vygotsky watched how young children talk, and he noticed something easy to miss. Toddlers narrate themselves out loud. A 3-year-old stacking blocks will say, "Put it here, no, too big," to no one in particular. Psychologists call this private speech. It isn't communication. It's a child using words to steer their own behavior out loud, because that's the only way they can do it yet. And then, somewhere around the age of 7, that talking goes quiet. But it doesn't stop. Vygotsky's insight was that it goes underground. The out loud narration shrinks, drops below a whisper, and finally disappears inward, becoming silent. The voice in your head is that childhood self-talk, internalized. You learned to speak by talking with other people, then you turned that same machinery inward and started talking to yourself. Which means your inner voice isn't really a monologue at all. It's a conversation you once had out loud with the world, folded inward and replayed in private for the rest of your life. And the voices it absorbed were specific. The parent who corrected you, the teacher who praised you, the friend who teased you. Fragments of all of them got stitched into the narrator you now call your own. It earns its keep, too. That inner narration is how you plan a sentence before you speak it. Talk yourself through a hard task, rehearse tomorrow before it arrives. It's a tool for steering yourself. The very same job it did out loud when you were 3, only silent now. That alone should be unsettling enough. But it's only half the story. Because the voice you assume is running constantly, narrating every second, barely shows up as often as you think. For decades, nobody could measure inner experience because the moment you ask someone what they're thinking, you change the answer. Then a psychologist named Russell Hurlburt built a clever workaround. He gave people a beeper that went off at random moments throughout the day. The instant it beeped, they froze and recorded exactly what was in their head in the half second before. No editing, no theorizing. He called it descriptive experience sampling. The results broke the assumption. People were convinced their inner voice ran non-stop. But when they actually caught themselves in the act, words were present only about a quarter of the time. The rest was images, raw feelings, sensory awareness, and something Hurlburt called unsymbolized thinking. Thinking with no words and no pictures at all. A complete thought, fully formed, with no voice attached. You felt this yourself. The answer to a problem that lands whole before you can put it into words, or the instant certainty that something in a room is wrong. That is thinking, with no language anywhere near it. Which means the voice was never doing the thinking. The real thought arrives first, underneath, in the dark. The voice is just one way your mind sometimes translates it into words. And here's where the strangest part begins. For some people, that translation almost never happens. In 2024, researchers Johanna Nedergaard and Gary Lopian published a study on people who report little or no inner speech at all. They named the condition anendophasia. These people aren't broken. They think, plan, remember, and live completely normal lives. They just don't narrate it. When tested, they were slightly slower at a few specific word tasks, like holding a list of similar sounding words in order, but in everyday life, you would never know. An entire mode of consciousness that most of us assume is universal, and millions of people simply don't have it. But the strangest thing about the voice isn't when it's missing, it's what happens when your brain forgets the voice belongs to you. Every time you generate inner speech, your brain does something invisible. It tags the voice as self-produced. It sends out a quiet signal, a kind of internal memo, that says, "This one's coming from me, ignore it." It's the same trick that stops you from being startled by your own thoughts, the same reason you can't tickle yourself. Your brain predicts its own output and labels it as yours. Now, imagine that tagging system fails. The voice still gets generated, your own inner speech, in your own head, but the memo never arrives. So your brain receives a voice it can't account for. Words with no sender. And it does the only thing it can. It concludes the voice is coming from somewhere else. Many researchers, including the psychologist Charles Fernyhough, think this is one route to the experience of hearing voices, the auditory hallucinations reported in conditions like schizophrenia, not a foreign signal invading the mind, your own inner voice, stripped of the label that says it's you. The exact same voice reading this sentence right now, suddenly experienced as a stranger. Same words, same voice, same head. The only thing that changed was a label too quiet to notice. You can feel a faint version of this every day. When you read a text from someone you know, you often hear it in their voice, not yours. When you read a character's dialogue, your mind casts a voice for them. Your inner voice isn't fixed to you at all. It's a flexible little theater capable of playing anyone, including, when something slips, someone who doesn't feel like you. So put it together. The voice in your head was assembled in childhood from conversations you had with other people. It runs far less than you think, sitting on top of a deeper kind of thinking that needs no words. And it only feels like yours because your brain quietly stamps it with your name every time it speaks. Pull any one of those threads and the whole thing comes loose. Which leaves a genuinely strange question. If the voice came from other people, isn't always there, and only feels like you because of a label, then who exactly is listening to it? There's the voice, and there's the you that hears the voice. Two things, somehow, inside one head. Most of us never notice the gap. We just let the voice run, believe everything it says, and mistake it for our whole self, especially when it turns cruel, repeating the same harsh lines at 2 in the morning. But you are not the voice. You're the one it's talking to, and that means you can answer it. You can change its tone, argue with it, tell it to be kinder. People spend years in therapy learning to do exactly that. Right now, that voice is reading you these final words. It sounds like you. It always has. But now you know where it came from, how often it's actually there, and the fragile little label that makes it feel like your own. The voice was never really you. It was just the story you've been telling yourself, out loud once, and silently ever since. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a new video. See you in the next one.